Move on to our next session, which is tackling the climate crisis. Joining me for this conversation is Ahmad, who is the CEO and founder of Evocco. I think he's just come on camera. Ahmad, thank you so much for joining.
Hey, Shama, thanks so much for having me.
Good to have you with us. So before we kick off, I'd love, Ahmad, if you would like to just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Ahmad. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Evocco. I've a background in mechanical engineering from Trinity College here in Dublin. And over the last 4 years, I've spent my time learning about food sustainability and really trying to tackle the challenge of consumer behavioral change when it comes to the food industry.
Thank you. So I think we will have a poll that is going to come up on our screens shortly. And just while everyone is filling that in, you have founded an app called Evocco. Can you tell us a bit about that, what it is and why you set it up?
Yeah, so Evocco is an app that helps you eat within planetary boundaries. And the way we do that is by allowing you to track, improve, and offset your food shopping emissions. But I suppose maybe I'll start from the beginning of where we kind of came up with the idea itself. So our journey kind of began back in 2017 when Hugh, my co-founder, and I were finishing our masters in mechanical engineering. So we were both really passionate about sustainability, particularly the climate crisis, and knew that if we were to actually reach the Paris goals, that we would have to drastically change the way that we lived. So just as we were finishing our masters in mechanical engineering, we decided to dedicate our professional careers to supporting people to change their lifestyles to hit those goals. And I suppose with kind of behavioral change at the focus, we started naturally gravitating towards the food industry. And that was for a couple of reasons. So firstly, it was an area where we felt we could make a massive impact. And that's because the food system accounts for about 27% of greenhouse gas emissions globally. It's also something that everybody can relate to because everybody eats, but not everybody can afford an electric vehicle. And for us, it was really important to find a solution that was accessible to everyone. And finally, and most importantly, when it came to behavioral change then itself, food is something that we interact with every single day, multiple times a day. So with behavioral change at our core focus, we didn't actually have to look too far to find some good examples of behavioral change being used, particularly through digital tools. So we started looking at kind of examples from the fitness industry, looking at apps like Strava, MyFitnessPal, Fitbit, who have all really changed the way that we think about fitness and health on a daily basis, and have even created a whole language and new consumer behaviors around us. Just even thinking about kind of like that 10,000 steps obsession that people have with that. And we felt that we could borrow a lot of those learnings from that industry and bring it then into food sustainability and really help consumers to interact in that way and change the way we think about how we consume and how we talk about food. So with that in mind, we developed Evocco. So it's a mobile app currently available in the UK and Ireland that allows you to track, improve, and offset your food emissions. And the way that works is you can take a photograph of your food shopping receipt and we give you a score based on how nutritious and climate friendly your purchases are. We give you personalized tips on how you can improve the next time you shop. And you can also offset your emissions, make them carbon neutral by planting native woodland directly through our app.
Amazing. And you're talking there about kind of trying to change that behavior, change the mindset. Have you seen that change happening already? What's been the take up with consumers so far?
Yeah, so we launched the app back at the end of 2020, but throughout 2020, we actually had our app in beta and we were working really closely with a tight group of users. And I think really, particularly as the pandemic set in and consumers were having more time to kind of think about food and had more time to kind of cook and try and explore different items. From speaking to our users, we found the majority of them actually started moving towards more of a plant-based diet. So from our surveys, to give you an idea, we got 81% of the users that we surveyed actually shifted more towards a plant-based diet, and that was particularly accelerated by the pandemic itself. So behavioral change is definitely something you have to be careful when it comes to kind of measuring the impact that you have on that. So it's probably too early still to say kind of what our exact impact has been kind of longer term on their change in behavior, but definitely I can tell you that our users are definitely shifting more towards plant-based diets.
That's really cool. And I think one thing which I thought might be helpful to bring to the conversation is, Bill Gates obviously published his book recently, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, one of the big, I mean, spoiler alert, but one of the big conclusions at the end is actually, like you say, moving towards a more plant-based diet. What else can consumers be doing when they are reducing their carbon footprint when shopping? What are the kind of headlines you give them?
Yeah, so I suppose definitely number one is that plant-based diet. So plant-based products are just more climate efficient when it comes to providing the nutrition as well. But then within that as well, you're looking to change how consumers kind of think about kind of different items, particularly around kind of fruit and veg, trying to get people to think more seasonally, to buy products that are in season, because that can have a big effect on fruit and vegetables. Then in certain categories as well, where they have a lower impact, transport might have a bigger percentage of the actual impact of the product as well. So that's encouraging people then again to shop local as well. So really things around kind of seasonal, fresh, local would be kind of rules of thumb that we tell people to look around for. And that's after obviously you've made that switch to try and buy predominantly plant-based.
Mm-hmm. So I'd love to get kind of the poll results up now if they are available. There they are. Perfect. So Ahmad, what are your thoughts on this? Is this better or worse than you thought we would be seeing?
I think it's a lot better than I was thinking. I thought that the majority, which was correct, be on the CSR initiative side of things. So it is really important to have a CSR department and to have people kind of focusing when it comes to sustainability on that area. But we definitely feel in this day and age now that sustainability needs to go far beyond just CSR initiatives and really needs to be embedded into everything that your business does. And that I suppose every single company has an opportunity to find what their unique sustainability story is, what makes sense in the context of their business, and then needs to find a way to embed that into their commercial strategy. For the 40% of people who have sustainability at the heart of what they do, I say congrats, because that's exactly what we need to have.
Definitely. I was quite surprised by 40%. That feels high, which is great. One thing which we've kind of been focusing on a fair bit, and I can see questions coming through the chat, so we'll have a look at that in a second. It's just this idea of purpose versus profit and how that is looking for businesses in 2021. But what does that phrase mean to you?
Yeah, I think again, just even leading on from that, just that last poll there, that really in the 21st century, businesses need to exist far beyond just generating profits for their shareholders. That there needs to be an element of having a purpose and actually contributing to the good in this world and giving back to society. So I think you're seeing a lot of brands starting to look around for what their purpose is and what that unique story is for themselves and how they can increase the collective good, I suppose, in the community. I think it's really important for companies to do that. And for us, I suppose we started Evocco with our mission is to help consumers to reduce their climate impact, and we're doing that through food. So the two kind of pillars that we look at is for making that impact is one is through the behavioral change, which is our number one and foremost. And the second is looking at different offsetting schemes as well. So looking at particularly nature-based solutions to help consumers to offset what they can't actually reduce through behavioral change. And for us, we've set a big ambitious goal for ourselves, which is to help reduce CO2 emissions by 300 million tons by 2030. So that's our goal as a company. And to give you an idea of that scale, that's looking at about 2% of food system emissions by 2030.
Wow, that's a big goal. So I think we've got another poll which is in the making, hopefully should come up on our screens in a second. But just to build on, I guess, where businesses can be building this into their strategies and into their commercial strategies. So we'll have a look at these questions in a second and we'll get those results through. And just while we're doing that, to bring in one of the questions from the chat. This is from Barry. He says, one absurdity we are trying to solve is eliminating food waste. Do you have any ideas on how an app like yours could help with this problem?
Yeah, I think definitely for us, we're focusing more on kind of the purchase side of things and also the consumption. But I think there's definitely elements in where, say, we could help on, say, the food waste when it comes to food waste itself. So really, if you're getting people to kind of have an idea of how they can use all the food that they're actually purchasing themselves. So like giving different ideas on what we would maybe generally see as a waste product of, say, different products. Like, say, I'd say recently enough, my sister was showing me how to make pesto from, say, the tops of carrots and, like, general stuff that I would have normally thrown into the compost, and things like that that can help you make kind of low impact products from kind of what we generally see as waste products itself. But there's definitely loads of different apps out there at the market. There was one that I came across called Empty My Fridge, which is just quite an early stage app that's come onto the market there just over the last few months. That's doing well in that food waste department. Definitely apps do have a place when it comes to food waste, and it's really about that consumer education on what consumers can actually do with the products, how they should be storing them, and also trying to get people to purchase them more efficiently as well and not be purchasing too much food.
Definitely. So then I think we hopefully have the results ready for that poll now. If we could get those up. Right. So I think quite a split across these. We've got reducing costs, marketing and brand awareness, attracting customers, and attracting investment and corporate partnerships. So that is a real spread. What would your response be to these results?
Yeah, I think traditionally a lot of people have seen kind of sustainability, particularly when it comes to kind of environmental sustainability, on kind of resource efficiency and trying to reduce costs. So I was expecting that to be the highest. Definitely over the last couple of years, there's been a lot more awareness around consumers actually wanting to see more sustainability initiatives. Sustainability has been used as a powerful marketing tool as well. And also with ESGs coming through, we've seen a lot more people trying to tack on sustainability onto what they're doing to, I suppose, attract more investment as well, and looking for different partnerships. I definitely think that the resource efficiency has been the one that's worked extremely well, both for the environment and for businesses, because you're very much linking, I suppose, a key part of someone's P&L or balance sheet directly to those sustainability products, those sustainability initiatives. I think where there's sometimes a lot of issues is around that kind of marketing and brand awareness and attracting consumers, because there's a lot of sometimes that allows a lot of greenwashing to kind of creep into the system itself. And I definitely think that in those two brackets themselves, that businesses need to work extremely hard to try and find a way to link their kind of sustainability targets and metrics to how they're actually communicating that to the consumers as well, and the upside they see in attracting consumers. Because I think a lot of times, if businesses can get that upside from the marketing and brand awareness by doing kind of the minimal on the sustainability side, and by actually attaching that to a sustainability metric as well, will force them to actually think a lot harder on how they can continue to improve that metric and also be able to attract those consumers as well.
Mm-hmm. We've just had a comment come through the chat, which I'd like to just pull into this conversation from Hans, which is a very good point. He said that last poll on the biggest opportunity in sustainability from a commercial perspective is missing an option for the common good. No use having a banging commercial strategy if climate change wrecks everything. Excellent point. What would your response be to that? I mean, is for the common good enough of a reason for businesses? I feel like it hasn't had that impact enough yet. What would you say?
I think that's an absolutely fantastic point to put that there, and I do also like the use of the phrase "banging commercial strategy" as well. But I think that's a fantastic point, because those four options, I suppose, are the immediates of the people see, because we're so ingrained to think so short term when it comes to business, that it's kind of like, what can we do in the next year, in the next 3 years, the next 5 years? But really, if your business is going to exist, I suppose, into the future, or as a going concern, as we all should be looking at, then you need to be thinking longer term. And none of these businesses will exist if, I suppose, climate change or environmental collapse happens and we actually can't. So for the common good should have been, I suppose, an option there. And really, we should be thinking longer term and thinking kind of beyond those short-term gains.
So what would you say is the biggest mindset shift that needs to happen to move towards overall? I know there are lots of moving parts and components to this, but towards a more sustainable economy overall.
Yeah, I think kind of two main kind of shifts that would spring to mind. Leading on from that kind of last question, I think it's that long-term thinking, really thinking on how can we ensure that we're thriving kind of into the future, 50 years down the line, 100 years down the line. How can we ensure that we have a sustainable model that allows us to do that? And then also the mindset shift that needs to come into place, which is probably going to be very contradictory to a lot of business leaders, but it's that obsession with growth as well. is there like, as in, because a lot of times for, I suppose, shareholders as well, it's looking for what's that exit opportunity, how do I get my money back? And I don't have the answer for this today, but is there a model that we can have that's more moving towards, can we grow to a point and then be able to dynamically thrive within that point rather than trying to continuously trying to grow as well? And can we also then assess ourselves thriving, not just financially, but on that common good that we're bringing back to the world? So, and I suppose there's a lot of those kind of ideas explored in the Kate Rayworth book, Donut Economics as well. And there's a huge movement around that. And I suppose what I really love about that movement as well is that they don't promise to have all the answers today, but they're just trying to change the mindset and create a framework that allows us to try and discover these answers.
Definitely. One last question before we close. I'd like to draw in one of the points from the chat, which is a question from Stephen, and he's asking, do you have any plans to partner with other apps that track other emission generating activities, i.e. energy, so customers can pull all aspects of their lives together to reduce their CO2? But overall, I think that's a great idea. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think down the line, there's definitely a number of different opportunities to partner with different apps, because I think really at the end of the day, the consumer is going to want one place where they can go to actually be able to track all their emissions and to really understand their impact. I think it's really important at the moment, at this point, that we have people focused in different verticals, because that allows us to, rather than to spread ourselves too thin, we can actually go deep and really understand how can we change behavior in those specific verticals themselves. But I think once we begin to crack that kind of vertical to vertical, there is a lot of opportunity then to start partnering with different apps and seeing how we can bring that bring a lot more impact to consumers then.
Definitely. Well, Ahmad, thank you so much for your time. It's been a really fascinating discussion and for sharing your insights. It's been great to chat to you.